Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Paul Crouse Show on the Star Nation's radio network, although we're not a radio network anymore. We're some internet tube thing. And I'm broadcasting here from Kyoto, Japan on a lovely sunny November day here. And across the big pond, we have, what's your name, young lady?
Howdy, I'm Frances Robbins. I'm over
Hi.
here, Paul. I'm over here.
You're over there. Well, it's kind of a mirror thing. So
I am coming to you live from Salem, Oregon. And
Salem.
Oregon is above California and under Washington State in the United States.
Okay, is that usually how you have to explain it?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Well, I'll explain. Kyoto is part of the Osaka Kobe Kyoto megalopolis of 14 million people, and it's the old imperial capital of Japan.
Oh, wow.
So today our subject is my name's Paul Crouse. I'm a life coach and spiritual healer based here in Kyoto, Japan. I help people who want to make life changes and do that through conscious conversations. And Frances, what do you do?
I am a psychiatric mental health nurse practitioner, and I prescribe medications much like a psychiatrist, and I do therapy much like a psychotherapist.
So you're a shrink?
That could be called that.
Could be called that. Now, is that an offensive term to you?
Not to me.
But to other people?
Some people it can be. I don't know. Okay. It's fine.
Head shrinker. Okay.
Why don't you just call me? If you need some help, you need to get help.
Frances is lovely. She's wonderful this way. So if you do need help, and so we work a bit, she's coming more from the science, I'm coming more from the spirit realm, and we talk about things and put it all together and boil it up and have a nice meal.
It's an interesting dialogue.
Yeah. Okay. Now we're supposed to be like comment on Facebook as Paul Crouse. Hi. Okay, this is trying to do more than one thing at once. I'm not great at. Okay. So today, we haven't seen each other in a while, Frances. By the way, we're going to talk about gratitude today, which will be it's going to be Thanksgiving in the States this week, right?
It is. So this right now it is Monday evening here in the West Coast of the United States, and this is Monday. Thursday is Thanksgiving, and Thanksgiving is a holiday that we traditionally have in the United States, and it's a time where we give thanks for those things that we have, and it's a time of being gracious and accepting gratitude and also giving gratitude. So I thought that would be a great topic for today.
Okay, great.
The power of gratitude.
The power of gratitude. And it's not just for Thanksgiving anymore.
It's not. It's not.
And I can tell you, maybe in the later we'll talk about, I used to be a newspaper photographer in Grand Rapids, Michigan, and I was lower on the totem pole. And I often worked on holidays because we got paid double time.
Of course.
Yeah. Not everybody was grateful on New Year's or on Thanksgiving, but maybe we'll talk about that another time. Anyway, okay. Neshi's online now. Okay. Good. So how's your life been? For people who haven't, Frances and I often do these shows together, and we've had a couple-month hiatus. I was on vacation in the States, and
yes.
And Frances, how about you?
Well, I have been doing a little side job here in Salem, and I've been working at our state hospital here, and so that's been interesting. A couple days a week, and it caused me to not be always available for when you have your show. So we've made some accommodations this time, and I was able to join. But things are going really well. I have opened up a brick and mortar therapy and mental health clinic here in Salem, and that's very wonderful. And I'm bringing in other providers that are helping, and we're working primarily with mental illness and also with those with diabetes. We're integrating those two things together. So it's an interesting thing that we're seeing. And I have been just really doing well, enjoying life. The weather here has been absolutely fabulous. We've had great weather. I really can't complain. I'm very grateful. And we were talking earlier about just getting ready for Christmas, and with Thanksgiving comes Christmas. Just as soon as Christmas Day is over, or excuse me, Thanksgiving Day is over. Then they have the big sales everywhere on Friday, and then everything is Christmas. And so
Yeah.
everybody gets right into the Christmas spirit.
Okay. By the way, precisionmentalperformance.com is how people can contact you.
Thank you.
I probably spelled it wrong, but
No, I'm teaching people how to spell, so good on
okay.
you.
All right.
Good on you.
Precision Mental Performance, and that's in Salem, Oregon.
That's correct.
But you also can work with people online
Oh, yeah.
outside of the United States because you're licensed in Washington and Oregon, right?
Correct. And so
Okay.
outside of the United States, not a problem. In the United States, I'm limited to Oregon and Washington State. Yes.
Okay, great.
Yes,
All right.
yes.
All right. Excellent. And okay, so Neshi's online there, looking at the Facebook stream, trying to get on that a little bit. Okay, so yeah, Thanksgiving. So the States, I've lived over in Japan for more than 20 years, so things like Thanksgiving, it's just kind of goes past me. The big holiday we have here is New Year's, which is like Thanksgiving, Christmas, and Super Bowl Sunday wrapped into one. So.
Is there a holiday there in Japan where it is just giving thanks or being mindful of what you have?
Yeah, in Japan, pretty much almost every month they have a national holiday, and that's just more of like giving people a day off.
Mm-hmm.
And then there are cultural holidays. But a lot of that stuff is more Shinto based. So the cultural holiday, Shinto is not particular. Shinto is it's a pagan religion, an animist religion. It's much more about, it's very pragmatic about stuff. Usually, like in February, they have a holiday called Setsubun, which is sort of the Japanese equivalent to Halloween. But this is where you're chasing away the bad spirits and inviting in the good spirits. But this is at the end of the winter, as opposed to in Halloween is sort of the beginning of the winter, and from the sort of European way of thinking about it. So not that I'm aware of. So
do they practice gratitude?
Do they practice gratitude? Depends upon the person. I think I need a little bit more light here.
Yeah, there you are.
That's an interesting question.
Because I think that people that don't realize, if they don't take account of what they have and realize that it's not always about them, that there's other factors that are involved, and to be thankful or just to be grateful for what we have and what we're experiencing, I think I know that's very healthy. You don't see that too much?
The culturally it's just different. It's a good question. I hadn't thought about it so much that way.
I stumped you.
No, it isn't so much as stumping. It's just like the challenge is when talking about cultures like this. It's like, well, you have to step back and look at the broadness. At least I think of it this way. You have to think a little bit broad. Japan is at its base, it's a Shinto cult. The religion was Shinto, and then Buddhist, which came later. And there's different kinds of Buddhism. But I think that generally speaking, the Japanese are more like the Europeans in the way that they view religion, which is they become more secularized. Okay, they have some beautiful temples and stuff, and so people might do a few ceremonies or whatever, but it's, for the most part, it's not a central point of people's lives. And so the Japanese culture is, a lot of it's based on loyalty and obligation. And people are grateful to each other, and they'll ask, like when you leave the office, there's a saying that's basically like saying, "Oh, thank you for your hard work today." It's in gratitude culture. I would say what's the negative word? Ungrateful. I used to be an English teacher, but I'm losing my English skills here. I don't know why I default to a Southern accent when I do that. So I'm sure I'm offending a lot of people.
I'm sure you are, Paul.
That's bad. It's not a bad one though. Apparently, it's my.
I would say that it would be healthier If I was working in that office and I just was being a little rebel, I guess, I would be more like, thank you for your hard, not just your hard work, but thank you for what you've done for this company today. I appreciate you because you're here today.
Okay. I mean, and maybe let's back up a little minute because talking about another culture, especially to people that are accustomed to that culture, that's kind of a difficult thing.
That's
So
true.
back
That's
up
true.
to, let me back up to my experience of I used to be a drunk and I sobered out. And one of the things I learned along the way was to be thankful. So for today, I'm sober today.
Right.
I have to remind myself how crappy my life was back when I was drunk. And also, I mean, I'm 54 years old, and so I've got a bunch of life experience. And you know, as you get older, we have our good times and our bad times. We have the difficult experiences. We at some point in our life, we all lose someone that we love, but then hopefully we all find love or have love in our lives, or have positive things that happen to us. And I've learned to now more from, here's a Buddhist thing of being aware of these things and being conscious every day of what's in front of me, to be thankful that I have food, for example, that I can walk. Like a year and a half ago, I had some severe issues with arthritis. I couldn't walk, and that freaked me tremendously. So just the sheer fact that I can walk today is good. To be conscious of that and aware of it, and thankful for it, and saying it out loud. This is where like a spiritual thing is good. Is you know, before I eat, Japanese people say they have a little thing that they say before they eat. Itadakimasu. And so what I say, then I add, thank you for this food. It's not it's a little bit different than the Japanese thing, but I'm just being reminded that I'm thankful, right? And that I have the wealth and the ability to have food.
Right.
And so I consciously remind myself every day of that, and that comes from saying prayers. I have a list of prayers that I say to myself and to say to God or the gods or whomever. And part of that is expressing your intention outward, and part of it I feel is also as a reminder of just to remind myself every day, because it's easy to get lost in all this busy stuff going on in our heads and in our lives. You know, to be thankful that there's this person standing in front of you that's helping you at the shop, and they're being nice, and you know, they may have a hard time. So taking that moment to not just acknowledge them, but see if you can connect with them even on a little bit, and be kind to them, and thank them for genuinely thank them for what they've done to you, with even maybe just a smile. The simple things like that. It's the little things, because life is just a series of moments. You know, at one moment, you know, at one time we weren't alive, and there's going to be another time when we're not alive again, but we're alive now. So what do we do with this time, and what do we do with this moment, these moments in front of us? It's easy to be, God damn it, this isn't working my way, which I do that.
Yeah, I agree.
But to catch myself to what am I thankful for?
Yes, I use that a lot in my own life, and then I use that a lot with my patients or with my clients, is talking to them, especially when they're caught in just a dark hole mentally, and they feel like there's really nothing for them to do, nothing, you know, nothing of worth, and that they feel hopeless or worthless. And so the exercise that I have them do is, on a couple times a day, write down things that you're grateful for. And together we come up with a number that seems reasonable, and they write what they're grateful for. And it may be something as simple as, I'm comfortable, like I'm temperature wise, you know, I'm not hot, I'm not cold. It might be something simple like that. Or it might be, I'm grateful that I woke up today, or I'm grateful that I have this cup of coffee, or whatever it is that they decide. And then I have them say it out loud, and really changes over time. It changes their their attitude, where they become more focused on the positive things that they're grateful for rather than focusing on the things that they're angry about. And the more people are expressive of what they're grateful for, then people around them are more inclined to express some sort of gratefulness as well and share that connection. And it happens. Yeah, it happens. It really just happens kind of serendipitously, right? So then they start seeing people with a positive connection instead of being a negative connection. When you're angry, bitter, nasty, pissy, all the time, people around you, that's what you connect with. And that's how people are going to treat you.
And that's what you, so the spirit realm, that's what you attract into your life. You're in that lower realms, this negative realm, and so this is what you attract, and then it's like self-fulfilling cycle because we're thinking that way and reinforcing it, and then that's what's in front of us.
And so after time with the gratitude exercise, from that we start talking about other things that are happening in our life that are there because of interventions from other people and things that other people have done. And then we expand on what have they done? What have they done? That sounds like I'm from the South. So what has happened? What things have they put in place to help other people, whether they realize it or not? And so it just teaches people to understand that there is a connection with each other, and that you can't go through this life without connecting with people, good or bad. You're going to make a connection, but you have the ability to decide what that connection is.
And have an influence on how that connection is too, right? So
Right.
It's easy. Well, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, and then you have situations where you may be feeling really good, and then someone does something kind of nasty to you, or aggravating, or mean, or what you perceive that way. You have a choice that you can make how you respond to that. And over time, my patients or my clients, they learn not to have those outside forces have such an effect on them, where they have really truly control over their own emotions. And then that's a win.
Good. Yeah, it is. It comes back to, so for the example about being sort of a Zen point of view would be things just exist. My friend, Reverend Taka Kawakami here in Kyoto, he's one of the priests at Shunkoin Temple, and he's a really wonderful man. And recently he's been using the word, well, one thing is that he doesn't say it this way, but basically we create our own personal reality by our belief system, by how we look at the world. He goes, but there's also this sort of, I used to use the word objective reality, but he uses the word actuality. What actually exists around us that is here. And because of the way that we're thinking in our heads, we're perceiving, for example, if we're in this negative state that I'm a victim all the time and everything's happening to me because blah, 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 blah. And an antidote to that, for example, could be being grateful and catching the repetitive thought patterns. But the first step in the Zen is just sort of just be here now and acknowledge actuality, acknowledge what's in front of it without trying not to have a reaction. Now, our emotions just happen, yeah? But how we handle, do you let the emotions flow through you, just feel them, feel your emotions, let them flow and let them go, or do you grab onto that and feed that little lion that we have inside, or whatever, or the victim, or do we keep feeding it, or the Zen way was just acknowledge that feeling exists and that those thoughts exist and that automatic response exists, and it's neither good nor bad, it just is. And eventually we can, by not reacting, can have this moment of not being sort of Pavlov's dogs and salivating when the bell rings, but giving us a moment, just that little moment of not reacting, lets us have a choice, that we get to choose our actions or not actions, and then move on to the next moment.
Mm-hmm.
This is a continuous process. So that life's in front of us, because of course there's times when things are in front of us that suck, or we don't like it, or people are being bad to us. Then how do we react?
Right. And I think that it's natural and it's healthy to have those emotion of sadness, mm-hmm. and to understand things, but it is what it is. And just acknowledging, yes, that happened, right? As you were saying. But when I talk about the power of gratitude, I talk about the strength that comes with that, and how you are able to really start channeling or taking responsibility for the effects of your actions, and and also it teaches some people, they have a hard time accepting a compliment. They have a difficult time with hearing things like, wow, that really helped me when you did this. Thank you. They might say something like, oh, it wasn't anything, or I'm just, I didn't really mean it how it turned out. I don't know why it turned out so great. They'll come up with
what is that? What is that? Is that
I think it's because a lot of times, especially in the United States, where if you're raised in a particularly strong Christian home, sometimes the message is to be humble, to not accept, to realize that you're not the person who's doing that. It's God working through you. Sometimes there's that piece of a cultural shift, but sometimes it's just a person afraid to realize that they've done something good, maybe just feeling their own worthlessness, or they struggle with that. So
they kind of want to sit. Maybe they have a belief system about themselves that mm-hmm. I'm a worthless, horrible human being, maybe something like that. Mm-hmm. And then somebody gives them a compliment, that kind of messes with that belief system, right? So denying it that way,
right. So what I do is I teach them just to say thank you. There's no narrative necessary. Just thank you. And it is what it is, and sit there feeling however you want to feel. But all you need to do is acknowledge by saying thank you.
Yeah. Okay, great. I remember a moment in my life.
Mm-hmm.
Because as a kid, I always thought that I wasn't entitled to things that were given to me.
Mm-hmm.
And it's still, this goes back to really, psychiatrists about childhood stuff. Gosh.
No, it really, that's where we get those beliefs. That's where they're birthed out of. Is how we were taught.
I remember I had a childhood friend who mm-hmm. the family was wealthy. They owned a factory or whatever, and they would offer me things all the time, like, here, not like just something to eat or whatever. And I kept saying no. And eventually, of course, I think I ate it. I ate this stuff. I don't remember as a kid, but that followed me through. And I remember one time when I was working at the newspaper in Grand Rapids, where one of my older coworkers offered me something. And I said, no, thank you. I don't need that. And he's like, Crouse, it's okay. You can accept things. There's nothing wrong with it. Mm-hmm. And it seems like an innocuous little thing, but to me, it was like, really? Again? It's one of those, because when you're challenging those really deeply mm-hmm. held beliefs, I just always thought I'm supposed to say no.
Yes.
For whatever the reason. And so people offer, okay, thanks.
Were you drinking during that time?
Most likely.
Yeah. So your perceptions were already pretty distorted.
Yep. Oh yeah.
Yeah. So when you sober up and you start realizing things and you see things from a sober mind, it it's very enlightening, I think.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And I think
And
part of, I don't know if you did the AA 12 steps or whatever, but I know there's a whole section on, writing letters of who you've hurt and asking for an apology and taking ownership of your actions. And that kind of feeds into the piece of gratitude where you're just really grateful for that person sticking it out or putting up with you,
Okay, yeah. I did the 12 step stuff to a certain extent.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, for me, when I was we don't have to necessarily go into the whole AA thing, but I got to a point where the AA thing wasn't working really well for me. But part of it was I ended up going more along a spiritual path, which seemed to resonate with me better. Actually, the groups I went to, whereas Grand Rapids is part of Grand Rapids is a really working class town, and half of my background is working class, but a lot of times I go to meetings. The meetings I go to was mostly very working class folk, and a lot of times I felt, I don't know why, I usually just wore blue jeans and a t-shirt, but it was still really obvious that I had a university education, and a lot of times I got huge hostility. And so it was like, not culturally appropriate. So
Right.
I ended up finding things that worked for me. So if everybody, by the way, I personally think anybody who needs to stop drinking, AA meetings is a great place to go. I mean, there's pluses and minuses to everything, but I think if you just need to stop and need to go, just go.
Yeah, and I would tell people too that each AA meeting has a unique personality, and if you're not happy with that one, no hard feelings. There's somebody else around the corner that's got an AA meeting maybe you might like better.
Yeah, in the United States.
Here,
in Osaka, which is a city of 9 million people, there's one AA meeting a week.
Oh, so there is online, and there's also, I know, like Smart Recovery, and there's other places that you can seek help.
Sure, great. What is that? Say those again.
Smart Recovery is
Recovery. I'll write that up there.
Yeah, Smart Recovery is one, and then AA has an online meeting. I don't know how well it goes or not, but they have an online service.
Sure, Smart Recovery is a way for. I spelled it correctly. All right.
Yes, you did. I'm getting impressed. This is new.
Yeah, I just looked and said, "Oh yeah, I remember." Neshi told me I can type stuff on the screen. The getting back to, well, a lot of stuff, at least, so in recovery, let me say this a little bit differently. Having gone through the process of recovery, or I learned a whole bunch of stuff along the way, it doesn't mean that I don't have problems, and it doesn't mean that I still have the childhood stuff still pops up or whatever, but that I've learned, I have tools now to, when I'm in a bad situation, or when I'm in a feeling poorly, or if I'm just reverting back to unconstructive or unhealthy habits, that I have tools that I can catch myself a lot. And that's a lot of things I think about with through the Buddhist thing, is just like catching yourself, that awareness, like, oh, I'm doing this again, and not, instead of beating myself up about it, just acknowledging I'm doing it again, and then use the tool that I have in my toolkit to, okay, well, what did I do previously when I was in this way?
Right.
Like, for example, turn around and walk away from the liquor store, or it's a simple thing like that, but I mean, just that's that catching you, because there's that. For me, a lot of times it's smoking cigarettes. I still get this when I have a tense, when there's like a stress thing going on. I still to this day just like really want to smoke, and so sometimes I find myself walking toward there's like cigarette vending machines all over Japan. I just like, but I find myself walking toward it, and then just simply, when I catch myself, simply just walking a different direction. Even if I still have that urge, like in the Buddhist thing, that will pass. I just go through that uncomfortable part until you get to another part, and then deal with that moment when you get to that moment. But that one moment where you've got that thought in your head, like, oh, I'd like to have a cigarette, oh, I'd like to have a drink, oh, I'd like to shove that large piece of chocolate cake in my mouth.
Right. Right. No, those are all that's really good because we live in the moment. We are living in this moment. Our brains may be way ahead of us or way behind us, as far as our past or future, but to just be focused on the moment, that's how you make it. That's how you make it. But I like hearing that. I think it's so hopeful, and it's so helpful for people to hear your story, Paul, and to know that even after all these years, it's still something you have to kind of deal with from time to time, and that you're doing it successfully.
Thank you.
Your sobriety.
One of the things that was interesting, so in September, October, I was visiting. I went to the States, and for a couple of weeks, I was visiting my mother in Michigan, and I was driving around Grand Rapids, which is my hometown. A couple of weird things. I was a newspaper photographer, so most of my job was actually just driving. I had to be places to take a picture, so I know the roads still like the back of my hand. I don't remember all the street names till I get to them, but I knew all the roads. And well, one thing is I used to always for years have these dreams, I still have them, of just driving in Grand Rapids. And then it turns into this weird thing, but there's always this driving, and then we're moving. It's kind of like a shamanic journey, but it's through the streets of Grand Rapids, and then you go to this weird combinations of whatever. The demons and the ice cream cone. I don't know. But I did, what was really interesting is I drove around like where I grew up, or like one time I remember I was just coming off an exit. I used to come off to go to the house I grew up in, and I suddenly, I won't go into it, but I suddenly had this memory of stuff that happened in my childhood, which wasn't altogether very pleasant. And suddenly it was just one of these, all in all, it was all just bricks in the wall. Pink Floyd, it was one of the bricks came up, and I was able to, I just picked it up and slide it into that plate wall, like, it's that one of the bricks. And I was like, oh, I get it now. And then all these things, why certain members of my family and how blah, 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 how they all mixed together. And it was like, oh, I never thought of it that way before, but it was doing this, very, very mundane thing of driving, but it was in a place I haven't been in long before. And there's all these memories attached to, it's amazing the memories you have attached to smells and sounds and
very much so.
Activate. I'm always amazed by that.
But you can look at those as an adult now. You can look, you can reflect on those memories and those things that happened, and those just the things that you see now through an adult set of eyes, and it changes the perception. I run into that a lot when I have patients who are still really struggling with some traumas and things that happened to them, some very bad, terrible things that happened to them when they were children. And they might blame themselves. They may just assume that it's all their fault. And then through therapy and as talking to them, they have that moment of awareness where they can look back on that memory without an attached emotion and see it from an adult's perspective. And they think, I was 7 years old. I wasn't responsible for anything, or I was 9, or I was 3, or whatever age they were,
Right,
and realize that it's not that it's very liberating when you realize that things from an adult, and then they might see the person or the somebody who they attribute to maybe some of the abuse or the trauma, whether they were directly related to it or not, but they can connect with that, and they'll think they're kind of a pathetic person, or that person is, I used to be so scared of that person, and now look at this person, so it's just with adult eyes, it's, much more enlightening.
And well, one of the keys, because actually with certain shamanic practices, there's the whole thing of what you said is, how do I say this? There can be a thing where you go look back to the experiences that you had, but from this very sort of detached point of view, as you said, not with this emotional charge attached to it.
Right.
and to go through that experience again, and so you can let go of the things that are attached, that you've attached to it, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, so that you
Right.
can release these things. It doesn't mean
Right.
that the pain isn't still there, and that that doesn't excuse, for example, if someone hurt you
No.
at all, but to re-experience it and then let these things go, and then having that awareness in
Mhm.
your conscious daily life. Doesn't have to be always in the front all the time, but that catching
Mhm.
the, because there's those thoughts go around and around and around, and then they're attached to the emotion, and they're around and around and around, and then you get in the shamanic thing. It's like this vortex, this could be black or whatever. You're just stuck in this energetic blah, and you're not moving.
Yeah, it's a nightmare.
Yes, and you replay the nightmare over and over and over again. So what is the, so what is hell? Is it this being stuck in that spot?
Mm.
So for example, with, again, from the shamanic point of view, a lot of times I go to the drinking bars, actually a lot of times have really horrible energies in it, because
Oh,
a ghost is someone who hasn't crossed over for whatever reason, if you believe in this stuff, but that
yeah.
it goes, there's like a process when you die. I believe that in your soul that you go through, it's a natural process. But for
Mhm.
people that are still here, because they're so attached to their addictions, part of their energy field is still looking for that addiction, and but they're not a physical human, so they can't enjoy that
Mhm.
drink. And so they go to the place where these drinks are, and then they attach to someone who's
Oh,
vibrating that way. And so a lot of times people who have these addictive issues also have all these attachments on them, like they're like energy,
mm.
and it's these things that just sort of help keep you down, because like they say, the demon on the shoulders, like, have another drink. Why? Because I want to feel the drink too.
Oh, wow. Wow.
So
Wow.
so you can think of that just as
Mhm.
metaphor, or as
Mhm.
real. You choose from your worldview, but that, whereas if you go to so that the energy of the place, that vibration keeps you
Mhm.
attracted there. And of course,
Mhm.
selling a product that keeps you addicted is a really good business model for
I
some folks.
know. I know it. We actually, so we live in the downtown part of Salem, and we live in an old warehouse that's been made into condos and apartments. And so down below us was just empty for the longest time. Empty, empty, empty. Well, now we have a bar there. Now we
Oh,
have a bar. And I was telling my husband, I said, I just feel like there's all this negative energy from this bar down below. So that makes sense. But
yeah.
I just don't like it at all.
You can cleanse that energy.
Well, we might have to chat about that. But
Partially, just set your intention that this is
yes,
my space.
this is my house.
So how about well, serious? It's very, because this is, yeah,
Okay.
it's my house. So imagine the building that you're in, and imagine
Mhm.
you can make your own ritual about it, but that you're putting your attention outward and speaking it. So imagine you can walk around the whole building yourself, if that works for you, and say out loud, this is my house. This whole building is my house. It's my sacred space, including the space below where the people gather. I all the negative energies, all the dark energy, and all the energies that I don't want, that don't support me, are
Mhm.
gone. And and you imagine, then also imagine a little shield like there is around the Starship Enterprise, when
Okay.
they're being attacked by the Klingons. Imagine that, and imagine then another part of the process could be, you can go in a meditative state and imagine from your heart. This is one of my favorite meditations. I learned this from Denise Iwani. Just imagine like there's a diamond in your heart,
Mhm.
and you say, there's a diamond in my heart, and it's connected to, this is the light of unconditional love, and this light of unconditional love um, has a positive effect on everything it touches. Then imagine it getting larger and larger from your heart, and then around your body, and then filling up the room. And then you could just do it with the whole building that you're in, and just fill this white light in this space, and just sit there. Again, it's like if people don't want this light, that's fine. But I'm filling the space with it. You don't have to take this, because it's not. I think it's unethical to give healing to people that don't ask for it. With certain exceptions, of course. There's certain people that don't have the capability at the moment, but to shine your energy out and then bring it back in and put your seal around it, basically.
Well, I will do that this evening.
Okay, so then what you're kind of doing there is, and then you might also put more of a shield between your floor and the because having personal boundaries is very important to being healthy, right? Well, there's also an energetic part of it. They have lots of loud music that dunk, dunk, dunk. Do they do that too?
They do, and sometimes I think they might have karaoke night or something. So it gets pretty bad, but it's sometimes I can feel the vibrations coming up, and then loud music. It's just really unfortunate. It's very unfortunate, but I am going to do what you say.
For starters, I mean, you also might consider it.
Well, we're looking at, we might need to be moving, but we love this place, but that is the big thing. That's the big thing.
I once had a neighbor that endlessly played ABBA underneath my...
Oh my goodness.
It was the same, 3 songs over and over and over, and they had a powerful stereo. That's
funny.
That was very challenging to keep one zen with that. Anyway, getting back to gratitude.
Yes.
Being thankful for the space, but it's also, you have to protect yourself, right? I mean, and
right. That's really great advice. I think you should make sure you put that on your notes to come at that point on this video, so people can go back and listen to that, because that's really good advice.
The point of the protecting your space. There's also another thing I want to just pop out. We have, how much time do we have? We have about
15 minutes or so.
About 17 minutes or so. Well, 2 things. One was, so I have a series of prayers that I say, and one of them I say them in the evening and in the morning. Let me make sure I'm saying the right one, because it's thank you for today, thank you for this moment, thank you for my life, and thank you for my wife, thank you for the abundance in my life, and thank you for the blessings. Then I also go through a list of the people I ask that are important in my life, and I'm thankful for them, and ask for that they're blessed and have protection and so forth. I just go through this whole long list. The opposite of Arya Stark, but anyway, the people that I love in my life, that are important in my life, or the people that I just met today, or people I saw on the street. It's a little thing, but again, it's just sort of the remind. So there's the metaphor of, I'm just reminding myself about the people, but I'm also, my intention is to send good.
Oh yeah, send them some love.
Sending them love and protection and whatever. Again, whether you think it's metaphorical or not. So the positive aspect is sending out the good vibes. The other part of it is just reminding myself that these things are important. So part of the reason for a prayer is I think of it as a prepackaged intention, and hopefully a prayer from a religion is made by a spiritual master. Okay, so Jesus, I was raised a Catholic, and so I actually say the Catholic prayers because I've learned that it means something to me. From my background, I understand the mythology of it, and I also think, like the Lord's Prayer, Our Father who is in heaven, hallowed be thy name. So his name is holy. And through that, in part of that prayer, you think you're giving gratitude for the food that you have today and that you're alive. That's an important thing. Right. So I think power, there's days when we kind of wrote with the prayer, but there's also when you're some days things aren't going well, and you're asking for divine intervention, or you're putting
Right.
that repackaged
Right.
engine out there.
Right.
There was this great TV show years ago. It was called Rome, and it was about these two Roman guys, and one of them was named as Titus Pulo, and he's this big lunky guy who was he was just a soldier, he was a grunt, right? He's like a huge grunt. Imagine, you basically give him a sword and he can take care of anything. He always found himself in these really messed up situations where he's about to be executed or whatever. He oftentimes found himself in a jail cell, and at one point he's just asking, he's at his lowest point, and he's asking one of the Roman gods, please, whomever, get me out of this situation and I'll be a good man. And suddenly there's a clink on the door, and they raise the door. He has to go up. They raise the gate, and he climbs up. Apparently you have friends. You can go now. Oftentimes he's like this guy. He's not the most brilliant guy in the world, but he prays for divine intervention, and it happens. Funny how that works. But he did also there was passion involved. There was belief. It wasn't just rote.
Right.
So there's also another woman. Her name is Sonia Choquette. She's a spiritual person. She's actually quite wonderful. She's one of the people I really like. What I do is she's on my Facebook feed, and she does snippets of videos often, and she talks about being a positive witness. She goes, being a positive witness will change your life pretty much. It'll change your attitude. He goes, there's a lot of people out there that are the negative witness, and
Correct. I agree.
It's like, yeah, just turn on the TV. Negative. So it's easy to stand there and say, well, you suck, they suck, this sucks, it all sucks, right? As opposed to finding that positive thing. Oh, like I like the sweater that you're wearing today. Or, it's a beautiful day. Or, oh, it's really good to see you. Finding the thing that's positive, because again, it's that sending out the vibes, and it comes back to a choice. Do I choose to be, because we have the spiritual way, we have light and dark. Which side do you want to be on? I mean, they're both here, and it's both inside you. Just choose, even when you're in the dark. It's hard to, where is that spark coming from? Yeah. Again, it's a metaphor or more, but having that being. So I oftentimes, and I do the sort of the Louise Hay thing where you repeat it over and over in your head. So sometimes, especially when I'm riding my bicycle, because I'm a bicycle commuter, I'll be like, I'm the positive witness, I'm the positive witness, I'm the positive witness, to try to reprogram my brain. I think it helps.
I ride my bike in it might be sleeting outside or cold, and I think, I'm such a badass. I'm such a badass. I'm such a badass. That's my mantra.
I am she-woman. I can go through the sleet and rain.
I'm incredible. I'm such an incredible person.
And you are an incredible person. So there's the challenge of doing this where it's positive reinforcement as opposed to just egoic narcissism.
Oh, yes. That is, yes. And thank you.
You're welcome.
It's very true. It's very true. I don't know. As I've aged as well, I think that it's much more gratifying being positive and helping people to see that it is to live in the filth of negativity.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's all there, and I have to catch myself, or people will say something to me, and I'm reminded, I'm being a.
I get aggravated too, and I can get nasty and mean. I can say things that I feel, I'm embarrassed that I said. It happens.
Well, I don't think everybody's saint, and they don't have to be a saint, because I don't actually think the saints are saints. I mean,
no.
Doesn't mean that you can't try your best to live well, be a good person, and to do your best. But I mean, we're humans, and that's the thing, is we're humans.
Right. And I think that's important. I think it's important that that people are aware of the good and the bad.
Yes.
because it sometimes folks they can try to compare themselves to other people, and they think that, oh, I can never be that good. That person's so amazing, and all you know is what you're seeing. You don't know the whole story.
Right. And the most amazing people many times are the ones that aren't famous, that aren't,
Right.
So yeah, that's just again, that's all this is human nature, and all of these
Yeah.
things trying to, part of it, it's often called that we're living in Earth school, that we have stuff that we're carrying from the past, the karmic thing, again, whether you believe in that stuff or not, but that we're here to learn something and to go through these trials and tribulations, and if you come out the other end stronger from them, or get eaten by them or destroyed by them or whatever. This is all, when when everything's good and hunky-dory all the time, then you don't force yourself to do stuff, because a lot of times that's the thing, is you have to, when things are comfortable, it's like, well, what's on TV tonight, honey? Clicking on the TV, and it's comfortable. So I'm grateful that I have the TV and the remote, that I found the remote. I'm grateful for that. I mean, I'm not just sitting looking around the house for it. But that it's easy when we're comfortable. It's easy to just stay comfortable, as opposed to have challenges.
When you went home over the fall, a couple of months or so ago, did you connect with some folks that maybe you thought at one time were negative that were now positive, or once were positive and now are negative? Have you connected with people like that? Did that happen this time?
Well, I will say I connected with a lot of wonderful people that are really nice and generous, and I was actually grateful all the time, because I had a lot of abundance coming to me that I was not. Wasn't. I won't say one prepared for. Wasn't. It just was there.
Yeah.
I had a lot of good.
That's wonderful.
Synchronistic moments, and I met some really wonderful people.
Because sometimes our families and friends from the past, family and then friends from the past, can come back in our lives in ways that we weren't expecting them to.
Well, what was his name? There's a famous saying, "Oh, you think you're enlightened? Spend the weekend with your family." So, certain family elements can be challenging, but work through them. What can I say? Yeah, there's some folks I came across that are, getting older, and I mean, there's people I haven't seen in a long time, and then it's like 20 years. I mean, sometimes their lives are very difficult now, and I'm glad that I had the chances to meet with them. But I also met a lot of people that were really wonderful. A lot of people have the States. Looking at the time, the States. Every time I come back to the States, I have a different view of stuff, because I just see things differently. And so I hadn't been back in like 3 years.
Yeah.
The first thing I noticed, actually more than anything else, is I noticed huge class differences, and that the people, the way they act and dress and talk to each other, and just the class stuff was really in my face. But most people were really, regardless of class, most people are really friendly. I enjoyed counter at a cafe chatting one night. I had this great time. I sat at the counter at this, it was a Bob Evans restaurant or whatever, but I wanted to have hash browns and to have an American breakfast at 11 o'clock at night. And they were about ready to close up, and it was a bunch of like high school, college kids. And I was just chatting with a whole bunch of them.
Yeah.
Everybody was everybody was cool, and they were inviting me into the conversation.
Yeah. We're friendly people.
Yeah, so Americans can be quite friendly, and usually, and I understand there's problems with race relations, most definitely, and you can see there's definite problems. But most Black folk or other folk that I met too were really cool to me. There was I had great interactions with people of all different ethnicities and classes and stuff, except when they're driving. People, when they drive, I think their qualities come out, because really at 80 miles an hour, do you have to be like only 2 yards from behind me? So
were you driving, Paul?
Excuse me?
Were you driving?
Yeah, it's Michigan. There's no way around.
On the other side of the street. That must have
Yeah,
been
I caught
real
myself. I
challenge.
caught myself once going the wrong way, but then you see the headlights coming at you. You go, oh, over here.
Whoopsie.
Oh, don't want to die today. Yeah, but a lot of folks are.
Good.
So generally speaking, American people are friendly and kind and polite. And some people are rude, and some people there was a culture difference between Michigan and Colorado. People acted differently, or so forth. But what else can I say? Yeah, so most Americans. The other thing I just thought was weird was like the venom on TV about like political stuff. That was just like, what?
Yeah.
And the other thing that was even weirder was that these political ads are just absolutely bizarre, and then they don't even tell you what party they are. Like, what party are you? How would I know who I'm voting for? It's just like, Bob Schlemelski is an evil man, and he, I don't know,
Yes.
breeds mice or something. I don't. That's like
Yes.
we're saying. It's like, it doesn't have anything to do with you're going to vote in Congress. I don't get it. So that stuff is like endless amount of like this negativity going on that I think average folks, is most folks actually when you meet with them, they look you up and they don't want to talk. If they want to have a civil conversation, we're not going there. It's certain people are trying to bait you into arguing with them, but don't take the bait.
Correct. I'm glad you got you some hash browns and a good American. I'm glad you got you some hash browns and a good American breakfast.
Yeah. As soon as I get in the States, it's like they stamp my passport and 5 kilos. Gain 5 kilos.
Yes.
But otherwise, it was good, and it was wonderful. Colorado was great. The Rocky Mountains are wonderful, and again, I met people, and I met people I met a friend of mine from high school I hadn't seen in 30 years, and it was great. It was like
that's really cool.
So it was a good trip. So I enjoyed it. And so a lot of people have lots of negativity about the States. Yes, everywhere has problems, but there's lots of really wonderful things that happen in the States. There's lots of really positive things, and it's really easy. Remember, the politicians and all those people in the political, they want you to see the negative. They want to feed you the negative just because that's how they stay in power. Now, clearly seeing what problems are, viewing actuality the way that it is important, but there's also a lot of very positive things going on in the world, or the things that are important aren't what they're talking about on TV or the internet tubes that they're feeding garbage on. So we have a couple minutes, so let's so thank you very much.
Oh, you're very welcome. It's always a delight to talk to you.
And
I always have such a good time.
Good, I'm glad to hear it, as opposed to going, Crouse again. Anyway, so let's see, how can people, your name is
the best way to get a hold of me is by my website. So go to precisionmentalperformance.com. And there's a connect with me on there. And I have an email on there as well. And just do a shout out. I also have a Facebook page if they're interested in that.
Let's see here. It's telling me I can't, precision. There. That's great. There's also the precisionmentalperformance.com.
Yes.
Is there another way if they just Googled your name?
Yeah. So Sarah is my first name. So so Frances, but Frances Robbins, and I have to stick an S in the front for my license because I'm a medical person. So it's S Frances Robbins, and I think if they Google that, it comes up with my my website.
Okay, good. That's good. S Frances Robbins. So Precision Mental.
That would be me.
And my name is Paul Crouse. You can meet me at you can find me at paulcrouse.com or on Facebook or Instagram. My Instagram is mostly for the photos, but that's what it is, Instagram. But you can find me there if you're looking to make some life changes too. So Frances, as we said earlier, Frances is a licensed, can you say again what your license?
I'm a psychiatric mental health nurse practitioner.
Okay, and you're licensed in Oregon and
Washington State, and I see folks internationally.
Yes, online, and she's very helpful. Lovely person. All right, thanks everybody for listening and watching. Sorry, I'm not the greatest at focusing on two things at once. So thanks everybody online and on the Facebook. I decided I'm going to focus on our conversation with Frances. But thanks everybody for all of your comments. Okay, I appreciate it. All right, and see you next month. And happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you. And I'm grateful for you, Paul.
And I'm grateful for you, Frances. All right. See ya, everybody.
Bye.
Bye-bye.